It wasn't the easiest of games. Of course, it has its challenges. Most notably, Jaylen Carter, and we will get into that. But when you look at this game, there was one test that had to be passed. Kevin Patullo was a big question mark, just as far as what his offense would look like. They were able to do some marching in this game before some things stalled out there in the second half. But all in all, passing grade here for your Philadelphia Eagles. But I know what a lot of people want to talk about is Jaylen Carter. Joiner on that play. Kickoff. Jaylen Carter mosey on over. You saw him spit on Dak Prescott. Later, we see it in his direction. What do you make of it?
I don't know what to make of it. I don't know how you've worked all summer and all offseason for this moment. And you go and you do that. Even if Dak spitted him, he got the full record, everything that happened. Even if Dak spitted him, he's got to know what the situation is going to be like. The second guy always gets caught. So you just can't do that. Like, he's got to grow up, and he's got to grow up in a hurry. He had no business over there by Dak, over there by their huddle. That was just nonsensical. Get in your huddle, get ready to play, and let your playing do the talking.
All right, Gunner, you've been covering this league for a long time.
The old adage is it's not the guy who throws the first punch, it's the guy who throws the second punch who usually gets caught. And that was definitely the case. But this has been a part of Jaylen Carter's MO since college. You just never know when he's going to do something that could be detrimental to a team. And I know the Eagles team and the staff and stuff, they treat him a little differently in terms of how they have to handle him. Because sometimes he does have these moments of mind absence where you do things you normally shouldn't do. Now, obviously, the coaching staff is going to talk about him, but I expect him to possibly get suspended for a game, for something like that. That's the worst thing you can do is spit on another human being. Throwing a punch is one thing. Jaw jacking is another thing. Grabbing a face mask, that's part of the game, it happens. But when you haul off and just spit on somebody, that's as low as you can possibly get. And you can't have it. So I guarantee you, the league is going to make an example of this. There were a lot of questionable plays in this game in terms of borderline dirty plays. The referees missed a lot of holding calls on both sides of the ledger. But this one is going to stand out and be talked about for a while.
No, I look back, the Eagles, they obviously had the collapse 2 years ago. You look back at that first game of the season, they played against the New England Patriots, if you remember that, in Foxborough. It looked clunky, to say the least. You had Brian Johnson as a first-time offensive coordinator in that particular game. Things didn't look good. Would you say Kevin Patullo passed the test today, Seth?
I think that, they had a good plan going up until the delay. I think both teams were affected by the delay, and I think, the Eagles' offense, got stale and stagnant, and that 5-minute delay that they had, it essentially gave the Dallas Cowboys defensive staff a second halftime to go in and make some adjustments. That was very clear. Both teams were pretty darn awful, in the second half of this football game. The Cowboys, barely had 120 yards of total offense. The Eagles barely even had 60 yards of total offense, if that. And that just, that can't happen. But you know what, man? Everybody says, oh, you're old school, you're like a dinosaur. But I think at the end of the day, this is the type of football that we're going to see through the first 4 weeks. This is exactly what it looked like last year through the first 4 games. They won some games by the skin of their teeth. They didn't look very good. And this is what the NFL is going to look like, today, because they don't play their starters in the preseason. And this is the slop that we have to endure throughout the first 4 games of the season. So, yes, there's a whole lot to talk about. There's even a little bit to be upset about. But I think at the end of the day, you can lay this at the feet of the newfangled NFL and how they approach their business now. If you're not going to play your players, when the heck do you think that they're going to find the rhythm and the timing to get out on the field and do what they got to do? Like, they haven't tackled anybody but a dummy all season, all summer long. Now, all of a sudden, you come out in the field, and this is the product that you get. The offense lost its rhythm. It couldn't find its rhythm. I think the defense was kind of out of kilter once Jalen got tossed out of the game. That was a huge deal. Just like when C.J. Gardner-Johnson got tossed last year against Washington. All of a sudden, the defense couldn't do anything. And this is a similar situation.
Yeah, you bring that up, and you talk about Javonte Williams being able to run up the middle of the field constantly against the Eagles, including one of his touchdowns. So you look at the situation like that, they had no answer for it, and it also took a while. I mean, you talk about the delay, the hour, and 5-minute delay that they had to go through here. Maybe that even helps the interior linemen that we're trying to take up for Jaylen Carter not being there. I mean, Jordan Davis, we were all expecting maybe an uptick of snaps that we'd see him play in this year. Jaylen Carter has certainly talked about that for his man Jordan Davis. Maybe that hour off helped him kind of rejuvenate a little bit, get back out there and do a better job.
Well, players hate to have interruptions like that because one of your biggest concerns is even when you come back out and stretch and things, there's a hamstring injuries, things of that nature, especially on a wet surface, But both sides, I thought, came out and played a different brand of football. You look at what Matt Eberflus did. What he did in the second half, he didn't do in the first half. He dialed up more blitzes, on consecutive plays. Forced Jalen to make decisions, forced Jalen to throw the football sooner than he wanted to. And that was significant in terms of helping Dallas stay in the football game. Fortunately for the Eagles, Dallas could not capitalize on the opportunities offensively that the defense gave them. Jordan Davis, a slimmed down, trimmer version of Jordan Davis. I thought he did what he had to do. The only play I was a little bit disappointed was he had his hands on Dak that one play, and Dak spun away from him. When you're a man that big, you can't miss. You can't miss a mediocre running quarterback like a Dak Prescott. If it's a more elusive type quarterback like a Patrick Mahomes or somebody, okay, that's a little different. But Dak basically is a statue back there. He's not known for his running ability, and you can't. Luckily, it didn't hurt the team in any way, shape, or form. But I thought outside of that, the Eagles' defense played better. Dallas' defense played better. And you look at the numbers, 41 points scored between the two teams in the first half, a grand total of 3 points scored, fortunately, by the Eagles in the second halk.
Yeah, how about that? 58 yards by Jake Elliott. That thing might have been good from about 63, 64 maybe. Yeah. They said they had a little wind behind him. Jake Elliott had a hell of a job there making that one. Now, let's talk about something else that's positive, and that's Jalen Hurts. And let's get to our mid-pen bank player to bank on. And I got to say, before the game, we called our shots here. Gunner, you had Smitty. I had Dallas Goedert, trying to think outside the box maybe a little bit too much. But you kept it simple there, Seth, and you took it away there. Jalen Hurts, our mid-pen bank player to bank on, especially when you talk about 16 carries. Before the kneel downs, he had 64 yards, led the team in rushing today, 2 yards more than Saquon Barkley, and the 2 rushing touchdowns. Jalen Hurts, when it came to carrying this team, including also the game-sealing run, he was able to lead the team.
And also, that graphic doesn't show it, but, a very efficient day throwing the ball for the limited amount of times that he was asked to throw it. He was 19 of 23 for 152 yards and a 94 quarterback rating. He even though, Dak had a few more yards, he really outplayed Dak, when it was all said and done. But a lot of that probably has to do with the fact that CD dropped some balls that he would normally catch, to the Eagles' advantage. But I think the Eagles have some work to do because, this is how teams are going to play them. They're going to load the box. I talked about it, in my podcast earlier in the week. I talked about it in my TV show earlier in the week, and I'm going to reiterate it now. The game plan for playing the Eagles is going to be trying to figure out how you slow down Saquon Barkley. And teams are going to load up the box. They're going to figure out ways to hit the gaps, all the gaps across the board. So they're going to have to figure out some alternate blocking schemes. The Eagles ran the ball a lot right in the middle, and which just like blew me away. So the strength of the Dallas defense, now that they have Kenny Clark, is the middle of the defense. So why are we running the ball in the middle of the defense? Why aren't we running off tackles where you've got 2 defensive ends who are now starters for the first time in their careers that wasn't even on the team last year? We should be running the ball off the edges and get Saquon, moving off the edge. But they've got to figure out some things. Jalen, as for as solid as he played, and a lot of people won't see it as solid because of what the numbers look like again. He was efficient with the ball. He didn't turn the ball over. He converted, third downs, especially in the first half where he needed to convert them. But, the other part is when he drops back and there's nothing there, the first inclination cannot always be to run. Like every pass play has a safety valve built in. Like the corner safety blitz that they ran off the edge, and I think he got sacked on that play. And he had Saquon Barkley out in the flat one-on-one against a linebacker that was 20 yards away from him. Wherever the blitz is coming from, you've got to throw the ball into the blitz because that guy that's coming is usually has that free releaser who is Saquon most of the time in coverage, and he's too far away. And I'm telling you right now, if he throws that ball to Saquon, Saquon's still running because no linebacker's tackling him one-on-one in the open field. And Jalen's got to do a better job of understanding where the pressure's coming from, understanding where his hot read is, and making the hot read instead of always trying to be the one that says, okay, I'm going to make that one guy miss, and I'm going to take off and make a play. Especially when you're playing against really, really fast defenses like Dallas has. He's got to get more efficient in that area. But again, it's week 1. These guys haven't seen, the bullets haven't been live since February 9th, I think it was, or 8th, whatever it was. And they've got a lot of work to do. And, they're fortunate to come out of this game with this win because, Dallas gave them everything that they could have wanted.
Yeah, I liked what I saw early from Kevin Patullo in this offense. They ran to the outside a little bit there, and especially doing that with guys that are going up against guys that haven't been starters versus guys that are all pros or Pro Bowl level in Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson. So it made sense earlier in the game. You saw a little toss on that little counter to Saquon Barkley. Will Shipley, they were throwing the ball to Will Shipley as well. He had a nice play for the Eagles in the early goings. Things that you heard from Kevin Patullo through training camp about throwing to the running backs a little bit more, you were actually seeing it. He wasn't lying about that. I loved seeing that be involved in the Eagles' game plan. You also got Dallas Goedert a little bit more involved early in the game. And then, as you pointed out, it just kind of went away. And one of the people that didn't really ever show up, unfortunately, whether it was part of the game plan, part of what the defense was doing to him, A.J. Brown did not get a catch to the final possession of the game. And it was his only catch, his only target. What were they doing to take A.J. Brown away? Or was it just Jalen not seeing him?
It was hard to see him because you very seldom saw the camera's eyes on him. And I said in the pregame show, I was anticipating Dallas's cornerback, Deron Bland, going one-on-one with A.J. And I said, Deron Bland's a good cornerback. And Seth said, well, A.J.'s a great receiver. And there's no question about that. I don't know if they blanketed him. I don't know if they played a high-low on him. It was hard to tell because he was such a non-factor in the game until he had the one catch, the one target for 8 yards, which was significant in them sustaining a drive. But very few people are going to take an A.J. out of a game, the way that Dallas appeared to tonight. You can bet your bottom dollars that other defensive coordinators are going to look at the film and say, okay, what did Dallas do? Dallas was not coming into this game. Nobody expected Dallas to have that good of a defense. And they couldn't stop the Eagles in the first half, but with that extended time off in the second half, they made some serious adjustments that thwarted the Eagles' offense time and time again. We talked about how they were going to try to take Saquon away. They did. He only had 60 yards rushing, 18 touches on the ground. I said it jokingly about trying to take A.J. out of the game in the second half, and lo and behold, that's exactly what happened in that second half. So it's going to be interesting to watch moving forward to see. As we talk about this all the time, the NFL is a copycat league, and when you see one team have a good measure of success against a high-potent offense like this Eagles team, guarantee you other teams are going to try to emulate some of the stuff they did tonight.
I see. Sometimes I think it's about the matchups, and over a 17-game schedule, I think things they balance themselves out. There's no doubt about it that A.J. is disappointed that he only got one catch on one target. But I think sometimes as a coordinator, what you're doing is you're looking at the matchups. You have to look at matchups. There's going to be some games where A.J. is just going to explode and have a big game. There are some games where that's not going to necessarily be the case so much, even though you want to say, hey, this is one of our best offensive weapons. We got to figure out how to get this guy the ball. But if the matchup isn't there, like you had Jahan Dotson with the big catch, matchup. You understand what I'm saying? You got Smitty that caught some balls. Matchup. And that's not to say that Deron Bland, if he traveled with A.J., or Travion Diggs, if he traveled with A.J., was shutting A.J. down. Sometimes it's just the play call, where the progression starts, okay, and where the best matchup is. If Jalen is sitting there and he's saying, hey, I got Dallas Goedert one-on-one on the tight end, okay? That's my matchup. I got to take advantage of that matchup. The Eagles get themselves in trouble, and Jalen got himself in trouble last year where A.J. was pouting because he wasn't getting the targets, and then all of a sudden Jalen comes out and he starts trying to throw him the ball. You can get yourself in trouble like that. Just run the offense. The problem with the offense right now is that it's not in sync yet because they haven't played enough damn football. All that practicing and thinking that was enough, doesn't work.
All right. Look, we're all happy the Eagles won, but I do have one question, and you guys heard me say this a number of times throughout the game. What happened to Quinyon Mitchell following the best wide receiver? Why was Adoree Jackson constantly on CeeDee Lamb? CeeDee Lamb had 76 yards in the first quarter. Most of those, if not all of those yards, came courtesy of Adoree Jackson being burnt like toast out there. What happened to the idea of Quinyon Mitchell being the guy that was going to be traveling and following the best target on the other team?
I'll say this, D-Gun. It didn't matter. It didn't matter where Quinyon Mitchell went. The target was Adoree Jackson. And as soft as he played, it would have been George Pickens. It would have been Devontae Turpin. It didn't matter. The Eagles got a problem at corner right now, okay? And they either need to make a trade to shore that up, or they got to get Jakari Bennett up to speed like real quick. Like he came in his first play, he got a PI. So they got to kind of figure that out, and they got to figure it out quickly.
Anything dialed up? Anything yet? Howie Roseman making a deal? Another corner coming in?
I guarantee he's on the phone. He was probably on the phone. He was probably on the phone during the game. He'll be on the phone later tonight. He'll be on the phone tomorrow. I can't imagine the Eagles moving forward with the corner opposite Quinyon Mitchell the way it is right now because Adoree was getting toasted early in the game. You notice they got him out of there real quick. And then all of a sudden he came back in the game later. But I can't imagine them being real comfortable with the collection of play. If Keely Ringo's not the answer, with the collection playing the opposite side of Quinyon Mitchell, that's not going to sit well. And there's some corners still out there. Like Asante Samuel Jr. is still out there. What do you pay him though? If they marginally went after a Michael Parsons, that means to tell me that Howie knows that he can maneuver money somehow to get somebody else in there. And Asante Samuel would be an upgrade over what they have right now.
It would certainly seem like it.
Stephon Gilmore is out there as well. I said it in the pregame. You don't make a trade as late in the training camp that they made for Jakorian Bennett if you feel somewhat comfortable with the players that you have. Isaiah Rodgers was the guy, in my opinion, they shouldn't have never let go. They should have figured out a way to get him signed and bring him back. At least he knew the defense, And after having last year, after sitting out of football for a whole year, surely he'd probably be in much better shape. But I guess the thought process was, hey, we're going young on the defensive side of the ball, and you got two young cornerbacks, you drafted a young safety, you got another young safety that you're trying to look at, and you got two young cornerbacks that you probably believe in. If we're gonna go and you go and you draft another linebacker because you know that you're not gonna have Nakobe Dean for quite some time. So if you're gonna go young, then I understand that thought process of why you didn't keep an Isaiah Rodgers or you didn't go and sign somebody. But the problem is glaring. Anybody who can see that they have a problem over on the other side because they're not going to target Quinyon Mitchell. They're not going to target Cooper DeJean. Whoever lines up opposite those guys on the outside and probably on the left side corner, he's going to get a lot of work. And I said it earlier. I'll say it again. He better put his big boy pants on and get ready because teams are going to look at this game and they're going to say, number 8, we can get after him all day long. And they're going to game plan it. So it really didn't matter whether he traveled or not, Mark, because whoever wound up on him, guess what? That's what he was the target all along. The Cowboys torched him when he was with the Giants. You think it was going to be any different here?
Apparently not, unfortunately. When we come back, we do hope we can hear from Nick Serriani as well, breaking it all down, especially when it comes to what went down with Jaylen Carter. And also, Bailey Lives will be joining us to let us know what you guys are talking about in the chat. All that and more when we return on the Verizon Postgame Show.
I know what you're thinking. Total glow up. What's her secret? Fine, I'll spill. I totally upgraded. With Verizon, everyone gets a free phone with any plan, even if you're already a customer, like me. Now I have Google Gemini. It's like a little glam squad in my pocket. Gemini, what eye makeup goes with this lipstick?
I'd suggest a classic cat eye.
Wow, setting the bar high for daycare pickup. Get in on this.
There's a number on the screen.
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 There is a number on the screen.
There's a number on the screen.
There's a number on the screen. There's a number on the screen.
Since 1893, Weber Display and Packaging has been Pennsylvania's leading manufacturer of corrugated packaging and displays. We're family owned with 4 Philadelphia locations, 2 converting facilities, a warehouse, and a fulfillment center. Designed through delivery, we exceed customer needs. Weber Display and Packaging, our core values drive everything we do. Come join our team.
Brought to you by Recovery Unplugged. Welcome back to the Verizon Postgame Show. Mark Farzetta, Seth Joyner, and Derek Gunn. Bailey Livesey joining us right now to break it all down when it comes to what you great people are talking about from this football game that featured just about everything, but most importantly, a win over the Dallas Cowboys. Bailey, what are the people talking about? Well, certainly it is a concern because he will speak out about it. If not in the media, not in the media, I think that's going to get talked about in the locker room. Yeah. I think that'll get talked about in the media. I think he's smart enough after week 1 to not broach that subject, but later on, possibly. But it is a concern, not just because of what might happen in the drama effect, but what might happen when you don't get a guy who is as talented as A.J. Brown, the football.
Obviously, they didn't need him. They didn't need him tonight.
It would have been nice to have.
It would have been. It's a nice luxury, and you know there's going to be games he's going to get his targets. They didn't really need him tonight until that one final catch in the fourth quarter, And obviously they caught Dallas napping a little bit because he had been such a non-factor the entire night. And the Cowboys had to be shocked, like, they're not even throwing at AJ? Are you kidding me? I don't think, as Seth said, I don't think he's going to make a beef about it tonight. I guarantee you a horde of media is going to surround him and ask him questions about it. Now, he might slip and say something emotional, but considering what he went through last season, I would hope he's smart enough to take the diplomatic approach and say, hey, it's only game 1. We didn't all practice much. We didn't play in the preseason. We'll get it down. I've been there. This is a man in 3 seasons in Philadelphia who's had over 4,300 yards receiving and 25 touchdowns. Okay, so he knows he's going to get the ball, and he knows if he starts to make a beef now, it could be a distraction. And because they have that extended time off before they have to go play Kansas City next, they don't want any unwanted attention right now. They just want to quietly go about their business, looking at the film and working on the things that they didn't do right and can do better to get ready for another heavyweight battle in Kansas City.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you right now, one spot it would have been really nice to see A.J. Brown shine. Their first possession, I believe it was, of the fourth quarter, they had a 1st and 5, ran it up the middle.
Yeah.
Then I believe it was a 2nd and 1, they ran it up the middle.
Yeah.
Where's the shot downfield to A.J. on that?
That's a valid point, and I'm sure it's a question that Nick Serriani is going to be asked. When you think about it, look at the overall game structure. They only took one deep shot to Dotson, and that was good for 51 yards. Everything else was dink and dunk. And again, the second half, because Dallas came at Jalen with so much pressure, threw their timing off completely. Now, who's to know? Maybe they were going to dial up some more deep shots in the second half. But Dallas's defense, give them credit, they didn't give Jalen a lot of time to stand back there and throw the ball in the second half like they did the first half.
Fair enough. Bailey, what else do you have for us?
So Jaylen Carter has been the talk for obvious reasons. Do you think this set the tone from the start of the game?
Setting the tone with Jaylen Carter the start of the game. It took a lot of wind out of the sails.
For
I mean,
sure.
put it there. Oh, I'm sorry. You have the best defensive player on the team, and all of a sudden he can't play anymore? He's gone? Thrown out just like that?
Yeah, that was a tough one because, it did not only affect the team, realizing that your best defensive player was gone, but it kind of took the air out of the stadium. And then Dallas comes out and marches right down the field, 6 plays, 53 yards, cap it off, with a Javonte Williams touchdown, and everybody's stunned, because this Dallas, to me, this Dallas team isn't that good, If when the Eagles are at full strength and they're at full strength, this game's a beatdown, in my opinion. If you take care of the problems that you have at cornerback and you have Jaylen Carter on the field, these are two different teams in two different stratospheres, in my opinion. But you got to get on the field, you got to play the game, and it was one of those situations where this is a win early in the season where they're fortunate to walk away with the W.
Certainly. Bailey, what else do you have?
In your opinion, what do we have to focus on, offense and defense, before next week's game?
Number 1, don't spit on anybody. Number 2,
don't spit on
don't get suspended or don't get caught. Also, I would say, I am in no way, shape, or form implying that all of a sudden, like A.J. Brown is blowing up in the locker room right now after only getting 1 target. But he's an extremely skilled player. Putting the ball in his hands only helps the offense. That'd be a request of Kevin Patullo as far as I'm concerned. And really, everything else, defense, when they really needed to step up, when the backs were against the wall, they stepped up and they made plays.
Yeah, I'm thinking, the number one situation for me is, on the defensive side of the ball, they've got to get that cornerback position rectified. I don't know how they do it. Who's going to be the guy that steps up? You've had 2 cornerbacks that have battled all off season and training camp for the right to be called the starter. You got a guy that you just brought in a couple of weeks ago, and I'm sure he's probably trying to learn the defense because he wasn't here for OTAs. But that's a problem that's not going to go away. The only thing that's going to help that is if you get him up in press coverage, you make him play at the line of scrimmage, and you pressure the quarterback. On the offensive side of the ball, it's just, I want to see the Eagles run the ball outside. They start off really good with Jalen under center. And then after this first quarter, you really didn't see a lot of it. Like, I was shocked. The first play of the game, D-Gun, I was like, man, they lined up under center, went play action pass. Jalen hits, Dallas Goedert on the crosser. I think that they can use that to their advantage. Use that play action pass because everybody's worried about Saquon. They're worried about how he can hurt you. So go play action pass, freeze the defense, and then try to throw the ball down the field. But to just line up and shotgun and think that you're going to replicate what you did last year after teams have had 31 weeks to break down 21 games and figure out what it is that you're trying to do and how you're trying to do it, that's not going to work next week against Kansas City. They got a lot to fix next week because if they go into Kansas City and play the way they played today, what they did to Kansas City in the Super Bowl might be the result of what we see next week.
All right, go, Gunnar.
I think, Kevin Patullo has to do a better job of adjusting. I don't think he countered well enough in the second half to what Dallas was doing. Good offensive coordinators know how to point, counter, point. They did a great job of protecting Jalen, keeping him clean, giving him time to throw the football, look down the field. Second half, once Dallas ramped up the pressure, they didn't make an adjustment, and it really affected their offense. They had like 216 yards of offense in the first half. They barely had 100 yards total in the second half. When this offense is clicking, and it will click, it's going to take a little time to get some rust off. This offense, the way it's run, is virtually unstoppable, But they played right into Dallas's hand, and in the whole second half, I'm thinking, okay, because I mentioned while we were watching the game, 2 consecutive plays, Dallas brought delayed blitzes off the edge, and forced Jalen to make decisions quicker than he wanted to, and he threw the ball, had to throw the ball away, just so they didn't lose yardage. And I'm sitting there going, okay, let's see what you do, Kevin, in terms of countering what they're going to do, whether it's quick pop passes over the middle, more hitch passes, delay draw, something. You didn't do it. You didn't do it. And you let Dallas hang around too long, and luckily you got the W. But, CeeDee Lamb, how many times have you seen him drop 3 passes on a series? I mean, you don't get to see Dallas all that much, but when we've seen him play, you don't see he dropped 4 passes in a game. He dropped 3 on one crucial series for that team in the fourth quarter. You don't see that often. You got lucky tonight. Sometimes luck will come back and bite you in the behind.
I think that sometimes what you have happen is that, and I saw this last year, the Eagles like to run a lot of plays from a condensed formation. But when you get your X, which is, your weak side wide receiver, and your Z, your strong side wide receiver, and you reduce those splits, now you start to bring more guys to the line of scrimmage. So it hurts you in a myriad of different ways, especially when they go trips to one side with a tight end on this side. That safety is responsible in man coverage, and they disguise it. He's responsible for that tight end. So now you can take that safety, that corner rather, and run them on a corner blitz. Where when you got people spread out, it's less likely that those guys can come on blitzes, and you can see it if they're split out and they got to come from a distance. So defensive coordinators are a lot less likely to run those blitzes off of the edge. The other thing is, in the run game, those guys now become factors in the run game because they're so close to the box, and in a lot of ways they're unaccounted for because that wide receiver or that tight end probably has to block up on the linebacker, which now puts that guy one-on-one, and if he's coming with good leverage, and good speed, he can be a factor, in that run game. As far as Kevin Patullo, D-Gun, in the second half, listen, great coordinators. The issue is what great coordinators do is they have the ability to make adjustments on the fly. This guy's a first-time play caller, calling plays in the first game as an offensive coordinator. Now, Dallas went in at halftime, and during the delay, and they made their adjustments there, and maybe even at halftime, okay? Kevin Patullo, I don't know, it's one thing to have halftime to make adjustments. It's another thing, to have to make adjustments on the fly.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
And plus another hour of a delay.
And the guys that are very proficient at it, guess what? They've been doing that for a long time. This guy's trying to project 3 plays down the line what the next play is going to be. And you're telling me that you're thinking that somehow, some way, he's standing on the sideline being able to make adjustments on the fly as a first-time offensive coordinator? That's going to take time, man. It's going to take time. But he's going to have to learn how to do it because what we saw tonight, the Eagles are going to see on a continuous basis. And then they're going to morph it and change it in a different way. And he's going to have to continue to make adjustments as the season goes on.
It's always better to come out on the learning side of a curve with a W more so than an L. Feels a little bit better when your mistakes are kind of hidden by the fact that you won, because all people care about is did you win or did you lose? Now, people are going to talk about that, the play calling in the second half and things of that nature. That's fine. But, he watched what they went through last year. He watched how the games were called last year. From all the indications, are a very smart guy. First time he's an offensive play caller. So, he'll learn. And, boy, I tell you what better way to learn than in the trials and tribulations of the kind of schedule that they have to look forward to right now. And he's got some even better, he has extended time off right now to get ready for what's to come, which is a gargantuan heavyweight coming up in a little bit more than a week from now.
Yeah, they're coming out of a game in Sao Paulo, similar to the Eagles did a year ago. I also want to say this about Kevin Patullo. At first, I want to say thank you to Bailey Livesey for keeping us up to date on everything everyone was saying in the chat. So, Bailey, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Make sure you guys are still commenting. We'll have Bailey hopefully again check back in a little bit later when it comes to everything that you guys are talking about, especially Jaylen Carter. And on that note, I noticed a lot of other people are saying on the chat that Dak spit first, gentlemen. Does that matter in your opinion? Because Dak, I don't know if Dak was just spitting on the field to be disrespectful, spitting in the general direction of Jaylen Carter before Jaylen Carter then approached him and then literally spat on him. In your mind, does it matter that Dak spit first?
No, because he baited him. He basically baited him. Mm-hmm. He didn't get caught. We all thought it was just Jalen, but we find out. But you have to be smart enough not to retaliate, especially with the referee standing right there looking at you. Mm-hmm. You got to be smarter than that. But that's the loose cannon nature of a Jaylen Carter at times. Those are the things that make this Eagles organization a little bit nervous because you just never know. I mean, think about several times last year they had to calm him down on the sidelines for something. So this is another learning curve. It's going to cost him. If he gets suspended in a game, it's going to cost him a paycheck. What better way to learn than lose that money? Players don't like to lose their money.
No. Well, listen, I'll say this. It does matter that Dak spit at him, but he's got to be smart enough to understand that you're going to be baited. Mm-hmm. If you're the best player and the guy that you got to –
Let me jump in real quick because Nick Serriani might be talking about this right now. Let's go to his press conference. Oh, Jalen Hurts, rather.
And when you come into the first game, you worry about the little details, the things and situations you may have not felt in a long time, getting hit, protecting the ball, communication, intense environment. And so I think as a whole team, I think it's just a matter of taking our discipline to another level and our focus to another level, and then playing together and staying banded together and being able to control the things that we can control.
On that note, when you talk about discipline, as a captain of the team, you talk to Jaylen Carter about the incident, and is that what you're referring to when you talk about discipline?
I'm referring to the team, not just one individual. I have had a conversation with him, and, we're on the same page. And so, I know what type of player he is. Everybody knows what type of player he is, and, it's something that we all can learn from.
You had to use discipline issues and focus issues. How do you handle that as one of the leaders of the team?
Like I just said, being diligent with it, at the same time, there's a sense of accountability and everything, and I know he's done that, and so it's just something that we all can learn from, right? It's only you're a wise man will make a mistake and not look back on it and learn from it. An unwise man, so you got to look at those things and be able to take something away from it, and we will.
You used your legs effectively a lot early on, especially in the red zone. What led to that?
I mean, they kind of just happens. Kind of happened throughout the game. Did a really good job in pass game and matching certain concepts, and so great job by them. And obviously have a new defensive coordinator from past over the years, and so he's in the division. It'll be a challenge, going against him for the games and years to come.
Are they doing anything to take AJ or Devontae away from you?
I wouldn't say so. I think they were just doing a really good job of matching things in coverage, and there's some things we got to be better at, and great job by him staying patient and in the big moment, right, making a play. Most important play of the game in my eyes, and then we're able to get ourselves in a position to convert that third down and wind down the clock. So great play by him.
Was that a delayed draw on that conversion to kind of seal it there? Was that a delayed draw? Was that the call at the time?
No, it wasn't.
You get to Dotson. What'd you see going into that? What led to that? What'd you see?
Well, he ran a great route, showed and had an opportunity to make a play, and I don't know that he even saw the ball, but he did a great job of tracking it very late. Great connection there.
How did the operation go between you and Kevin Patullo? What stood out?
Well, it's I think it was good. I think there's going to be things we want to do and want to talk over, and kind of trust our instinct with certain things. So first games, like I said, there's so much unknown, but you got to be able to be not on the reactive side of things, more so, proactive and being able to play smart ball and put yourself in advantageous positions. And so happy for him to come out here and get his first win as an offensive coordinator. I know he's waited a long time for this opportunity, and we just want to keep building. I know we're all hungry for that.
Have you ever been part of a game that was suspended due to weather, and how do you stay sharp when you get pulled off the field for about 40 minutes?
It's been a long time since something like that has happened, probably going back to high school. But, when you look back on it, it's just about maintaining the championship level focus. And as I look back on it now, I don't even remember it happening. And so that's the type of focus that we all have to have and has to ooze through to continue to do that, and we did that. We would love to come back and go up by two scores. We didn't, but we played team ball. Our team played together, and we're very disruptive on defense in that second half. So that's a great job by them.
Are you getting the sense that teams are really going to focus on taking Saquon away? And if so, how does that change what you have to do during the course of the game, whether it's run more or look for other guys?
I don't think anything's necessarily changed. Right? When you look over the last 5 years of me playing the quarterback position here at Philly, what have they gone in and say? Beat him as a passer. Make him beat us as a passer. And so, what does that change? It's kind of been the same thing for our run game over the years. And I think people look for the production in certain things, and I'm just looking for the efficiency, and it comes a moment where you have to meet the moment and take advantage of things when they come, and I think as a team we did that.
Was Michael Jordan's presence here significant to you, and was the touchdown celebration a tribute to him?
Yeah. You have a special guest, special friend in attendance, there's only one thing you can do, and that's to win. So, got a lot of love for him. Yeah.
Have you gotten better at the running part of the game and choosing your moments to do that as you've played more? I mean, as you just said, teams say, "Oh, we make him beat us as a passer," but have you gotten better at picking your spots to do that?
No, it's just finding a way to win and advance the ball. It's about efficiency. It's about efficiency. It's about finding ways to win, and that's my mentality with the game.
Do you feel like the lack of camp time with AJ had anything to do with tonight?
No.
You mentioned that efficiency, Jalen, a couple times. Early, I think, was touchdown. And he didn't have a lot of time on task with some guys in camp. What do you attribute the fast start to?
Can you say that again?
Touchdown to start the game. Just the efficiency and, training camp, a lot of guys were out. We didn't see the 11 together that much.
Yeah.
Why do you think you guys started?
Interesting stuff from Jalen Hurts. I do like the tribute to Michael Jordan. The only way you do a tribute to Michael Jordan is to win, which I'm sure my MJ really does appreciate. But I love what he had to say about A.J. Brown. We were discussing that a second ago when it came to making the biggest play of the game in Jalen Hurts' opinion, and also going out there and making sure that A.J. Brown stayed sharp throughout the game. We're going to be back after this break. We're going to talk, hopefully we're going to hear from Nick Serriani a little bit later on, hear what the head coach has to say about Jaylen Carter postgame, and of course the Eagles' 24-20 win over the Dallas Cowboys to kick off their 2025 season. Back after this.
At Revolution X, we know that fortunes are made in times of uncertainty. Are you selling your investment real estate? Are you interested in deferring your tax with a 1031 exchange? At RevX, we're experts in 1031 exchange planning and the use of passive real estate options using DSTs. Not in the midst of an exchange and want to invest in real estate but don't know where to start? Revolution X has institutional grade real estate options for any size investor right now. Set up a consultation at RevXWealth.com. RevX, defer the tax, maximize the gain.
Gentlemen, are you ready for a wardrobe update? Introducing Divine Nine's Custom Menswear, your clothier for truly unique, custom-made threads. With Divine Nine, you can design your own one-of-a-kind suit, jacket, slacks, shirts, golf pants, and shorts, perfectly handcrafted by our skilled artisans who will bring your vision to life. Prepare to stand out from the crowd with Divine Nine's Custom Clothier, official clothier of Seth Joyner. Custom clothing made for you.
If you understand that success is built on trusted relationships and dependable performance, Mid-Penn Bank is the right bank for you. We're on a mission to prove that the right bankers can make a big difference. We work harder, we get things done, and we're in your corner. With financial centers strategically located throughout the greater Philadelphia region and new locations in central New Jersey, we're ready to bring you the best in commercial and personal banking. Call or visit us today to connect with a professional Mid-Penn banker. Member FDIC. Go Eagles!
Pride, passion, and persistence. These are the values that drive us all at Ron Jaworski Golf. We strive to deliver outstanding conditions as well as playability for golfers of all ages and abilities. Our championship golf courses offer a variety of challenges, from a link-style walk along the river to an escape into the pines and everything in between. My team at Ron Jaworski Golf is committed to delivering memorable experiences every single day. See all we do at ronjaworskigolf.com.
Coming up in this segment, we're going to talk to Dr. Bruce Grossi. We also hope to hear from head coach Nick Serriani. Let's bring in the doctor right now. Dr. Bruce Grossi, we appreciate you joining us. First and foremost, the first injury we saw today was Ben Von Sumeren, got carted off after the opening kickoff. Doc, first, great to have you along with us again for another football season. What can you tell me about Ben Von Sumeren?
Preseason, he had an ankle injury. And just the start, 6 seconds into the game, he took a hit on his knee, and he was carted off in extreme pain. My fear is another ACL, another season-ending injury. So Ben is a converted linebacker, essentially a fullback, and it was very sad to see that, plus the Haktui incident was very sad, and the fans, including myself, were startled at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Another Eagle to fall, unfortunately, in this one was also Will Shipley. Went out with rib injury. What can you tell us about Will Shipley?
Well, I know that he didn't return. I spoke to somebody in the locker room. I don't believe that he had rib fractures. So I think with rib injuries, it's mostly a matter of pain control. And you could really see his absence, the lightning and thunder, literally in the second half. It was kind of dead when you had A.J. Dillon really as the counterback to Saquon. And also, of course, Landon Dickerson, another injury we could talk about.
Yeah, and go right, because we obviously knew he was dealing with the knee injury before the season. Then all of a sudden, the back injury popped up on the injury report, and then he leaves this game as well.
Yes, and I saw the replay. He's a big man, and it just, in the chaos of a play, somebody landed exactly on Landon's back, and he went out, and he's a very stoic guy, and he was wincing in pain. So we presume that he, aggravated a low back strain. And when you put Brett Toth in there, and you missed the speed of Will Shipley, it just seemed like the plays up the middle were just pretty inert, and even Saquon Barkley really didn't do much. It was almost like after the delay, the game was in quicksand, as opposed to the first half where there was no defense, no punting, a tale of two halves.
Doc, talk to me about the significance of Landon's injury, the knee injury in camp, and how that potentially affected his back. Because after he came back after the knee, the issue was the back, and then he went out with the back tonight. So was it the back the issue? Was the back a part of the issue coming into the game, or was it something that happened during the game that kind of threw things, out of whack for him?
I feel that the knee injury was kind of a finite injury. He had a very small cartilage tear, just a tiny tear. It was repaired. And in fact, you saw famously he came out with cases of beer. He was carrying 2 cases of beer after the knee injury, and then he suffered, I think, a separate low back strain. He was stoic. He practiced leading up to it, but I believe the back wasn't fully healed. He's just a stoic guy, and I believe that when somebody literally landed on his low back, that more or less was the camel's back, as to use that old expression. We don't know the nature of the back injury. We can hope it's a strain, but as far as I know, the knee was in good shape. Here's a guy who battled through a lot of knee injuries in college at Alabama and really has been fairly injury-free up until this tiny little knee surgery. And So I would say they're two separate injuries.
Fair enough. Doc, we appreciate you giving us the update on all the injuries in this game. Eagles bottom line start out 1-0 on the season. Dr. Bruce Grossinger, we appreciate it so much. Thank you. We're going to try to pick up Nick Seriani at his press conference. He is speaking now live to the media at Lincoln Financial Field. Let's hear what the head coach has to say. We're going to get that for you in 1 second. One thing I have seen from Nick Seriani so far, because as you would assume, when they opened up the press conference, they asked him about Jaylen Carter. And the bottom line was simple. We needed him out there today. So I don't think the coach is going to go into too many details about it, unfortunately, but he acknowledged his presence was missed.
I don't think Dallas would have had the measure of success they had
on
in
both
the
sides of the football. There wasn't any
scoring
scoring after
Excuse me, I'm sorry, we're getting him right now.
4:44 left on the clock when the clock stopped. So, we'll go back and look at that, but I think Kevin did a really nice job of calling the game the way the game needed to be called today. But again, you have to go back and look at the tape and reevaluate everything. But I got a lot of confidence in Kevin and the job that he does.
It is an often that A.J. Brown goes that deep into a game without a target. What were some things they were doing where you guys kind of maybe struggled to get him the ball?
Yeah, that's a good defense and a defensive coordinator. Matt Eberflus been a long-time defensive coordinator. Has a lot of experience calling defenses. They did a good job of matching some of our routes. They did a good job of matching some things and taking away AJ. We had some different things to him that Jalen had to get through some progressions, and I think Jalen did a really nice job getting through his progressions tonight, and then made some plays with his legs as well. But credit to them. Those are two really good corners over there, and then another first-round pick who's still developing as a player. I just think that they did a good job on defense doing that, and when we needed it, we needed to. So many times here we've won the game because of our 4-minute offense, and different ways to play that. Being aggressive, I thought we were aggressive, and AJ got a ball that set us up for a 3rd and 3 that helped us win the football game. So, when we talk about roles, I tell those guys there's going to be games like this. This is gonna happen. But to be what we want to be, AJ's obviously going to have to be involved more in the offense. But some games go this way, and I get that will be a story and everything like that. But there are games that go this way. You look at Smitty in 2022 against Detroit. AJ has 8 for 155 yards, and then Smitty has 0. And then the next game he has 8 for 175 yards and a touchdown. So that's the way it goes. We just I know this, that A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert are selfless, very selfless, and they want to do everything they can do to win, for the team to win. And they know things go like this sometimes, but they also know that they have to be involved to help the team win. So you love that about them. I think some of the proper questions is, that no one's asked me is, man, how about Jahan Dotson coming and making some huge plays today? A huge 3rd down catch that equaled points on a 3rd and really long, a 51-yard gain, another one on a scramble. I get it. You want to ask a lot of the negatives, but man, there was some positives too. And Jahan, that is such a huge ability to have when you have the other guys that they're keying on, and then Jahan comes in and makes the plays that he does. Again, I know the story will be AJ only got 1 target until the 4th quarter, but how about Jahan Dotson? He played a heck of a game.
Jalen performed in spite of the fact that AJ was not.
Yeah, if you guys can tell me exactly how somebody played immediately after the game, that's pretty impressive. I'll have to watch the tape, but I think Jalen played a really efficient game. He made a lot of plays with his feet when things weren't particularly there. That's such an advantage that Jalen. There was a 3rd down. They took away his first read. He situated his feet and put the ball to Dallas. To say I know exactly how he played yet would be hard because I want to watch the tape, but he did. I thought he played really efficient, and I thought he played really well. And he's a big reason why we won that football game tonight, the game that he played. again, I know that it will say that we threw for 152 yards. What's going on? Why didn't we throw? But Jalen played really efficient and really good, and from what I saw, and made plays both with his legs, with his mind, and with his arm.
On a defense, the plan against CeeDee Lamb, what was it, and specifically how Quinion was deployed?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into exactly what our plan was, but CD and George Pickens are both really, really good players, and Dak, man, I got a lot of respect for him. We've seen him a lot. We've seen him an awful lot, and he can get the ball to his guys and can make a lot of plays. So, you always are going into a game saying, how do we take out their best players? Whether that's scheme, whether that's matchups, whatever it may be. They got him the ball quite a bit today. I think he had 100+ yards, and probably had some more plays even out there. But that's the way first games go. I knew coming into this first game that there's going to be a little bit more missed tackles than normal. There's going to be a ball on the ground, and it just happened to be by them and not us. There's going to be drops, both by the offense and by the defense, because now you're into, those are you block and you block destruct live in practice. But those things, when you're getting hit and tackled, those become live. And watching our first games from the last 3 years that I spent a lot of time on, there was a lot of drops, not necessarily by the Eagles, but by our opponents, because it's different. It's different now, and it's the same for our defense, right?
That's Eagles head coach Nick Serriani addressing the media following the Eagles' 24-20 win over the Dallas Cowboys to open up the 2025 season. He did say earlier in the press conference in reference to Jaylen Carter, simply, we need Jaylen Carter on the field. We'll keep all things in-house, but we need to get those things corrected. Jaylen Carter was at his locker addressing the media as well, where he did acknowledge, I won't use the word he used, but basically, I messed up. That's essentially what he said. Does anything get said in I don't know if you've ever been a part of anything like that during your playing career, Seth, but does anything get said in-house to Jaylen Carter by leaders on the team, by coaches? What goes on in a situation like that?
Oh, hey, listen, this is where leadership takes over, because, I do think that this is something that needs to be handled more by the leaders in the locker room than, by the coaching staff. The Lane Johnsons of the world, the Jordan Mailatas of the world, the Jalen Hurts of the world, the A.J. Browns. They need to pull this guy aside and have a conversation with him, because that message is stronger from those guys with the C's on their chest than it might be from the head coach. He'll understand why the head coach feels the way that he feels, but when you disappoint your teammates, that's a whole different deal. Listen, I just want to go back for a second, man, because you know what? I like Salty Nick.
Salty Nick?
I like Salty Nick.
Why so? Oh, you mean you guys are going to talk about A.J. Brown in one catch?
Yeah,
right.
I like Salty Nick, and I'm looking at some of these. I'm looking at some of these comments in the chat, okay? And I've had my time to be, critical of Nick Sirianni. But I said it earlier this week in my TV show that Nick has proven his mettle, because his greatest attribute last year was his ability to mature from week 4 to the end of the season. And his players listened to his messaging, and they bought into what he's selling, okay? So everybody wants to, create something. This team is the defending Super Bowl champions. And I see people in the chat here just, trying to trash a head coach that just brought you the second Super Bowl championship in the history of your franchise, okay? I don't understand that. I don't understand it. Everybody's entitled to grow, and everybody's entitled to change. And Nick has done a fantastic job from his first year being here, to winning a Super Bowl after losing one. He's done a great job of changing. And I don't care what it is that the fans have to say about Nick or what we have to say about Nick. The only thing that matters is what his players think about Nick at the end of the day. Because whatever it is that he's selling, he sold it well enough for them to win Super Bowl 59. okay? And there should be some type of reprieve about this nonsense that we continue to get when it comes to our fans about our head coach. Listen, the rest of the nation hates on him enough. He don't need it right here in his own backyard. You understand what I'm saying?
But we do it with love.
No. Some of these comments
I understand.
are not, written with love.
I agree.
Okay? I mean, we should have some reverence for the – think about all the head coaches that we had in the history of the Eagles organization. And we've had some great ones. Only 2 of them brought us a Super Bowl, okay? So we should have some reverence for those guys. As far as his comments about – and I love what he said because see, when Nick says certain things, I'm listening to what he says. And they asked about A.J. Brown not getting the football. And Nick said, listen, it just works out that way sometimes. Jalen's working through some progressions. What did I tell you guys, okay? Sometimes the open guy is not going to get the ball. Like, to the novice that's watching football, he'll look at the TV and see a guy running scot-free down the sideline. Oh, Jalen missed a guy wide open. How many eyes do you think he got? Mm-hmm. If his progression is right to left, okay, and the guy's wide open on the left side, he may not get back to the left. And that's what Nick is saying. Jalen had to work through some of these progressions, and sometimes he didn't get a chance to get back to AJ, okay? A little football 101 for you guys out there, you gurus that think you really know what the hell's going on when you watch football because you see a guy that's wide open. We all see him, okay? But that doesn't necessarily mean that guy was the first read. And if he wasn't the first read, he may not ever get the ball. He could be running down the sideways, butt-ass naked, and never get the ball. Because guess what? The play wasn't designed to go there first. The play was designed to go over here. And because pressure came or something broke down, Jalen never had a chance to get back there, okay? Lastly, his comment, there's a whole lot of comments in here about, Jaylen Carter, and I didn't get a chance because to really speak on it because we went to Jalen Hurts. It does matter, D-Gun, that Dak spit at him, but he's got to be smart enough to. And I would say this: if the league is going to suspend Jaylen Carter, they need to go ahead and suspend Dak's ass too. Now, because they both spit, one spit on one spit at the other. Okay. The film is out there for everybody to see. So what I'm hoping is that there is no suspension. Go ahead and find your guys, do what you got to do, and let's watch this and move on. Jaylen Carter's just got to be smart enough to know that you're being baited, okay? This is where you lose leadership. When you lose a guy like Milton Williams and Josh Sweat, and the Kobe Dean's not on the field, and you lose a guy like, Darius Slay, because somebody should have been pulling him by the back of his jockstrap, telling him to get his ass back in the huddle. You got no business over there talking to Dak. Talk to him. Talk to Dak when you put him down in the game, okay? I step off my pedestal.
All right. According to Dak, he said that what escalated it was Jaylen Carter was confronting one of the offensive linemen. And Dak said he spit at the ground. He did not spit at Jaylen Carter. Mm-hmm. And he said, I'm offended that Jaylen Carter thinks that I will spit at him. I would not do anything like that.
And this guy don't lie, D.
I'm not defending Dak in any way, shape, or form. I'm just telling you what the quotes were saying coming from Dak at the Cowboys postgame press conference. Now, Dak can cover it all they want. They're not going to suspend Dak Prescott. The league loves Dak Prescott. The league office loves the Dak Prescott. They're not going to suspend him. They're going to make an example out of Jalen. I guarantee you. For whatever reason, they're going to make an example out of him. Whether it's a one-game suspension, hefty fine, whatever the case may be.
I don't mind a fine. The fine. But you can't justify suspending Jaylen Carter for spitting.
I don't disagree with you.
And let Dak slip when you have the evidence right there.
Do you think they're going to suspend Dak?
No, I'm just saying. You can't suspend either one of them because you can't suspend one and not suspend the other. That's my point.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but based on what I know and have covered in this league for so long, I would be shocked if Jaylen Carter doesn't get suspended for one game.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I would be shocked.
Yeah. And the difference is spitting in the direction of spitting on. That's what the league will say.
I was spitting on the ground?
Yeah.
It was clear you wasn't spitting on the ground. If I'm spitting on the ground, I put my head down and I spit right there on the ground.
He said, you notice he spit between two linemen. He says, I wasn't going to spit on my lineman. I needed to spit. So that's why he spit this. He said, I'm just telling you, don't look at me like I'm defending him. I'm just giving you a paraphrase of what he said here.
There you go. All right,
yeah, and whoever's on our chat talking about I'm wrong, you wrong. Okay, how about that?
There you
go. You wrong.
All right.
Okay.
When we come back, we're going to have our drive of the game.
Yeah.
We're going to have our drive of the game for you when it came to the Eagles coming away with a 24-20 victory over the Dallas Cowboys to open up this 2025 season. More of that when we return here to the Verizon Postgame Show.
If you understand that success is built on trusted relationships and dependable performance, Mid-Penn Bank is the right bank for you. We're on a mission to prove that the right bankers can make a big difference. We work harder, we get things done, and we're in your corner. With financial centers strategically located throughout the greater Philadelphia region and new locations in central New Jersey, we're ready to bring you the best in commercial and personal banking. Call or visit us today to connect with a professional Mid-Penn banker. Member FDIC. Go Eagles!
At Revolution X, we know that fortunes are made in times of uncertainty. Are you selling your investment real estate? Are you interested in deferring your tax with a 1031 exchange? At RevX, we're experts in 1031 exchange planning and the use of passive real estate options using DSTs. Not in the midst of an exchange and want to invest in real estate but don't know where to start? Revolution X has institutional grade real estate options for any size investor right now. Set up a consultation at RevXWealth.com. RevX, defer the tax, maximize the gain.
Gentlemen, are you ready for a wardrobe update? Introducing Divine Nine's Custom Menswear, your clothier for truly unique, custom-made threads. With Divine Nine, you can design your own one-of-a-kind suit, jacket, slacks, shirts, golf pants, and shorts, perfectly handcrafted by our skilled artisans who will bring your vision to life. Prepare to stand out from the crowd with Divine Nine's Custom Clothier, official clothier of Seth Joyner. Custom clothing made for you.
I know what you're thinking. Total glow up. What's her secret? Fine, I'll spill. I totally upgraded with Verizon. Everyone gets a free phone with any plan, even if you're already a customer, like me. Now I have Google Gemini. It's like a little glam squad in my pocket. Gemini, what eye makeup goes with this lipstick?
I'd suggest a classic cat eye.
Wow, setting the bar high for daycare pickup. Get in on this.
Welcome back to the Verizon Postgame Show. Mark Farzetta, Derek Gunn, Seth Joyner. Let's get into our Verizon drive of the game. It was where things really went in the Eagles' favor. Look at this situation here with the Eagles, where they're down 17-14. They need to put something really good together, and they had the perfect plays dialed up for an 8-play, 81-yard drive, capped off by a 10-yard touchdown run by none other than Saquon Barkley, and the Eagles really never lost control after that. And how about this also, gentlemen? If you're Kevin Patullo and you're looking to grade yourself, often we've talked about the Eagles having issues with trying to get out to a good start, scoring in the first quarter, scoring in the first half in general, and then we wait for the adjustment. Well, Kevin Patullo might have to work on that adjustment, but starting out, the script, if you will, worked out pretty well. Touchdown, touchdown, and touchdown when it came to the first three possessions for the Philadelphia Eagles, and getting Saquon involved particularly on that drive, and the 51-yard pass to Jahan Dotson on that drive as well really helped pan things out for the Eagles offensively in that game.
I like the way he mixed up his calls in the first half. You know, I thought it was a very balanced attack, and basically Dallas was on its heels. You know, even though Dallas was matching the Eagles early on point for point, Dallas's defense was on its heels because the Eagles' offense was doing what we grew accustomed to seeing it do last season, running a balanced offense. And the end results were 3 possessions, 3 touchdowns. You know, when you talk about any team going 81 yards, you're thinking it's a slow, meticulous drive. They went 81 yards in $1:43. They raced down the field and took that lead at 21-17. So Patullo, I don't have a problem with the way he called the game in general. He's never done it before. But like I said a little while ago, when a defense makes a counter, you have to counter back. And I didn't think he did that well enough in the second half. I thought he ran the offense well in the first half to put up 21 points. But the offense became stagnant because you allowed Dallas's defense to dictate the flow in the second half.
I like the way they started out. I just felt like, you know, if they would have went back to a little more play action pass, you know, and went max protection. See, this is the thing that, like, kind of blows my mind about, offensive coordinators and play calling in the National Football League. When you have success with something, until someone stops you or shows you that they have the capability of stopping it, why wouldn't you just keep running it? Like, flip the formation and run it again. But I know what it is. They got these big old sheets with all of these plays on it, and they're holding it up against their face, like it's, like it's I Spy or something. I'm like, bro, listen. And they got their pen. So they'll call a play. If they have success, they'll write something there. I'm like, go back to what succeeded, Make them prove that they've adjusted to that. And if they prove to you that, they've adjusted to that, now move on to something else on your sheet. But the called plays that were successful in the first half and you never seen them again in the second half makes no sense to me. Makes no sense whatsoever. So I don't have a problem. Listen, these are the growing pains that the Eagles are going to experience. They're going to experience the growing pains of, having to adjust to Jalen's fourth offensive coordinator in as many years. Mm-hmm. They're going to have the growing pains of, having to figure out how to negotiate and deal with the blueprint that the Kansas City Chiefs presented to the other 30 teams in the National Football League. And then on the defensive side of the ball, they're going to have the growing pains of having to deal with trying to find a cornerback, and trying to figure out, who the men are when Jaylen Carter isn't in the game, because he's not going to be able to play the entire game. You might be able to get 75% of the plays out of him, but you're certainly not going to get 100% out of the play. He's going to need a breather. So when he steps out of the game, if teams make the decision that we're going to run the ball down your throat, or we're going to just max protect and figure out, how to take advantage of you, they're going to have issues. And speaking about max protect, D-Gun, I talked about it a second ago as far as the offense is concerned. Mm-hmm. When teams make up their mind that they're going to blitz you, what in the world? If they blitz you, that means they're in man coverage. Mm-hmm. And that means that you're singled up at X and Y with a single high safety. Why not go max protection across the board,
right?
And run a two-man route? What's wrong with that?
No, absolutely. When you have the caliber of receivers they do, not every team has the caliber of receivers that the Eagles do at their disposal. So I agree with you 100%. But again, we sit here second guessing some of the things they do now, and I'm sure Nick Serriani and Kevin Petula will go over the film. Let's see what happens in a little more than a week from now, because I guarantee you, Kansas City's defense, with Steve Spagnuolo calling that defense, they're not going to sit back and just let Jalen throw the football. They're going to put pressure on him. So let's see how Kevin counters what Kansas City's going to throw at them.
All right, we've talked a lot about Kevin Petula so far on this post-game show. It almost shows you how much we take Vic Fangio for granted. They pitched a shutout, gentlemen, in the second half. 3 points were scored. Those points were scored by the Philadelphia Eagles. That's it in the second half. Other than that, you had the defense stepping up. You had some penalties there, especially by Nolan Smith, who gave the Dallas Cowboys 30 yards, by the way, on the field. But in the second half, they really got things going, especially on that one drive, the first possession of the Dallas Cowboys in the second half. Eagles have the ball coming out of the halftime. Obviously, they get the 58-yard field goal by Jake Elliott. That was one hell of a way to get things started. Who knew that would be the only point scored in the second half? But then you see the Philadelphia Eagles step up. They allow a big run. They allow Miles Sanders to crack off a 50-yard run. Then they see Reed Blankenship break up a play in the end zone only to get a flag, unfortunately, for unsportsmanlike conduct, whatever it was, targeting, and they end up throwing the flag there. They put the ball right by the goal line there, and of all people, Miles Sanders coughs up the football. Eagles, they get some luck on their side there. Defensively, they take advantage of the situation. Offensively, they can't take more advantage of the situation. But again, it was the defense stepping up throughout that second half that really made sure, aside from a Jalen Hurts game-sealing scramble and A.J. Brown's only catch, the defense was by far the star of the show in that second half.
Well, think about this also. Not just the defense, but the youngest starting defense in the National Football League. And look at how many young players they had to rely on again tonight to bail them out. And so give Fangio credit for whatever his play calling was, whatever his scheme was. It worked. Now, granted, again, CeeDee Lamb helped him out a lot with those drops. It made a big difference going down the stretch. But the bottom line is you make the plays, you don't make the plays. The Eagles defense, I thought the biggest play was them forcing the turnover, because then I'm thinking, well, Miles Sanders is still playing for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh, look at this, the Cowboys. Are the Cowboys choking something away, Gunner? No, that's not in their makeup. They don't do that.
No. But kudos to Fangio, man. I mean, think about it. Second year in a row, he's got to figure out young personnel, what he's going to do with them. I mean, last year, prime example with his first and second round picks, and Kenyon, it panned itself out after that fourth game, and I think it's going to take 3 to 4 games to pan itself out for him to understand what he has and what situations he's going to be able to use them, because, again, we can't emphasize this enough. We'll talk about it all season long. This is a heavyweight schedule compared to what they played last year. Okay? So Vic and his defense are going to have to be on point. The key is keeping people healthy. That's going to be a huge key, because I don't think they're as strong defensively as they were a season ago. When you look at who they lost, the leadership of Brandon Graham, Josh Sweat is gone, Milton Williams is gone, Darius Slay is gone. That's a lot of personnel you counted on, veteran personnel you counted on to carry you through in big moments. You don't have that luxury now. You do in certain spots, but you don't have that overall luxury like you did in 2024.
Some guys, D-Gun, have to grow up.
Yes,
absolutely. And when you make the decision as an organization to go young, you're counting on those guys to grow up really quick.
Yes.
As good as you want to say that those guys were, they weren't that good in, 2023. Mm-hmm. All of those guys, those same guys were on the team. Okay, they were atrocious those last 7 games of the season. Vic Fangio, to me, is the key. How quickly can he get these young guys up to speed and get them playing to a level? Listen, Josh Sweat led the team with 8 sacks last year.
Right.
Okay? That's not earth-shattering. Mm-hmm. So you lose 8 sacks. Nolan Smith, guess what? You got to step up and replace those 8 sacks. Mm-hmm. And Jalen Hunt, you got to step up and give us the level of play that, Nolan Smith gave us towards the end of last year. I think if Jaylen Carter's in the game, listen, Jordan Davis, for all you want to say, Jordan Davis played some pretty good football tonight. Mm-hmm. He had a couple of almost there. He should have had 2 sacks tonight, and as time goes on, maybe he'll step up. Listen, you're going to see a heightened level of play because he's in the final year of his contract. Mm-hmm. He's down 25 pounds. Maybe he's growing up and understand what it's going to take to be a pro. But my biggest area of concern for the Eagles had 9 penalties for 110 yards tonight. And some of those penalties were key in keeping drives alive where the Eagles had an opportunity to actually get off the field. They've got to clean that up. The PIs, the personal, the personal foul calls, there were like 4 or 5 calls in there. Dallas only had four penalties for 42 yards. So they didn't help the Eagles out in that regard. But we, as a defense, certainly helped them out in that regard because we consistently gave them first downs and we consistently gave them field positions that allowed them to, get some of those 20 points that they had, where if that wasn't the case, maybe they don't score as many points as they scored.
I'm also waiting to see who emerges as a leader on this defense. When you look at the leadership caliber they lost from a season ago, Brandon Graham, Darius Slay. You had veteran leadership on that defense. Who's your leader now on the defense? You've had young players who played the game at the highest level in the Super Bowl, but are they considered leaders right now? Who is that definitive leader that when it comes down to crunch time gets into people's faces and say, look, we got to buckle down? I don't know if that guy has emerged just on that defense.
No, not after 1 week.
No, I'm just saying, even from the players that are carried over from a season ago, I don't think that player has developed yet in terms of being that guy who's not afraid to jump in people's faces when you have to.
There's one player that has been mentioned a couple of times, and I was surprised to hear, and this even goes back to right at the end of last year, and that's Reed Blankenship. Mm-hmm. Reed Blankenship and Zach Baun are 2 guys that I know other people look to as leaders on this football team. And it was interesting, even before Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was traded, if you remember, Darius Slay's doing the interview, and he's like, hey, who are the leaders on the defense? He's like, well, Reed Blankenship. Then he paused and thought about some other guys, named 3 other guys. None of them were Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, by the way. And CJ, as one does, got all up in his feelings about it. But then the other one is Zach Baun. And one of the things that I really focused on from this past training camp is when he was asked about Jahad Campbell. the glowing things he had to say about Jahad Campbell and the film study, the work ethic, the presence being felt on the field, and how Jahad Campbell even talked about how Zach Bond is that guy that he looks to be a leader on the defense. Now, in terms of the results that'll bear this season, obviously that remains to be seen. It's one game in. But if someone needs to get in somebody's face, I look at Reed Blankenship, I look at Zach Bond as guys that would do that in this locker room.
You know, the dangerous thing about being the vocal leader is that you only have the cachet, you know, and the legitimacy if you're performing. So, with the exception of Zach Bond, you know, who's the high performer that has that voice that can hold someone, you know, accountable? Or who's that veteran that's been around the league long enough to understand how the NFL world works to be able to step forward? That's what I was talking about with Jaylen Carter, because somebody out of those 4 guys last year, or 5 guys, D-Gun, would have grabbed him by his collar and told him to get over here and
exactly.
Get him. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's kind of what you lose when you lose those guys. I'm not worried about the production. I think the production will come. You know, I don't think we'll miss the production that these guys that have walked out of here. Even Darius Slay. You know, Slay had 1 interception last year. And I kind of felt like, you know, he was kind of on the downslide for the last 2 years. But when you play up front the way that we played last year, it makes it a lot easier over there on that corner. You know, and there was some times last year where we seen him, you know, kind of get worked the way that that Adoree Jackson got worked, you know, early on. You remember we all were talking about, why are we playing so far off the ball? Maybe this is Vic Fangio's MO early on, to play bend but don't break with our corners until, you know, we get to a place where we can play a little more aggressively. But when it comes to the leadership aspect of things, listen, you don't have the ability to open your mouth if you're not producing on the field. That kind of a leader can break your locker room. And they will break the locker room in this manner. When someone begins to speak out and they're not producing, you have these fissures and these breaks in the locker room. Because this little group over here be like, man, he's over here running his mouth about what we should do. You see how he got rolled up? You see how he got cooked? You see him missing tackles? So you got to be careful when you try to thrust guys into the limelight of being the vocal leader on a team, because it will blow up in your face in a lot of ways, and it'll create these, you know, these divisions in the locker room, and then that will destroy you even more than not having a leader.
Understood. All right, it's coming time on the show where we talk about our final takeaways from this game. Of course, the Eagles are going to be kicking off in a Super Bowl rematch against the Kansas City Chiefs. That game will be 9 days away from today. Today now being Friday morning, by the way. Thanks a lot to that hour delay in the game. But when you talk about the takeaways over the next 9 games, gentlemen, what do you want to see from the Eagles 9 days from now to make you feel like, okay, they are working on these things in-house, they're getting better and better?
Clean up the penalties. Offensively, call a more consistent game, not just for 2 quarters, but for 4 quarters. Defensively, I want to see the defensive front get more pressure on the quarterback. Dak Prescott's jersey was too clean tonight. They didn't get him. But the bottom line is this was a valuable learning tool for this young defense in particular. First game of the season against one of your hated rivals on national TV. You're the only game on national TV tonight. And the Cowboys outgained you in yards. The Cowboys outgained you in first downs. But you came out with a W. That's a great way to start in terms of learning and growing from an experience like this. So you got that first big game out of your belt at home. You're going to have to get the next big game out under your belt on the road. And the team that you faced in the Super Bowl, the team that went to 3 consecutive Super Bowls, everybody knows who Patrick Mahomes is and what he's all about. You're going into their hostile environment. Arrowhead Stadium is considered one of the loudest stadiums in the National Football League. But you had a great learning experience on the platform tonight. And now you get extended time to sit back, to study, to go over the little things that can make you that much better in about a week and a half from now.
What do you need to see in 9 days, Seth?
Steady improvement, because in this new age of not playing players in the preseason game, these first 4 games serve as, their preseason games. And you can't win the championship or the division in the first 4 games, but if you don't play well enough and you put yourself behind the 8 ball, you got Washington is coming. The Giants' defense is going to be better. You can't afford to fall back 3-4 games in the division and then try to have to catch up the rest of the year. So just steady improvement, clean up the penalties, because they were a big part of, why they struggle so much tonight. Figure out your running game and how you're going to, utilize these 2 good running backs that you have. And if you have some weakness, in the interior of the line, because, you're not as strong as you were with Mekhi Becton last year, then start running that ball off center. I'd like to see the play action pass, because teams know that the Eagles want to get Saquon Barkley going. So use that to your advantage. Make them back off with the play action pass. Run some slants off of play action. Run some deep stop routes off of play action. And then once you make them back off and you get them in those 7-man, the 7-man or the 6-man looks, now, Jalen can check at the line of scrimmage and get you in the right play, to run the ball. As far as the defense is concerned, it's just really all about them continuing to grow up, with this young group. And I don't know what the fix is, but they got to figure out how to get that cornerback position solidified over there. Stephon Gilmore is out there. D-Gun talked about
Asante Samuel Jr.
Asante Samuel Jr. Obviously there's a reason why these guys are out there, but bring them in and kick the tires, man. Bring them in and kick the tires and see if there's something there, rather than continuing to, watch this thing deteriorate. Because it's obvious Eli Ricks wasn't the guy. You cut him and let him go. Keely Ringo wasn't the guy. He got beat out by a guy tonight that, got roasted a little bit. And Vic Fangio, openly in training camp talked about, his indecision whether Adoree Jackson was the guy. And then Jacorian Bennett was the icing on the cake for me, because you go and you make the trade. That's telling me right there he doesn't have a whole lot of confidence in Adoree Jackson. So go out there and kick the tires on some of these guys that are out there and see what it is that they have. There's nothing wrong with that.
Fair enough. Yeah, I would say Adoree Jackson would be public enemy number 1 for a lot of people. Something else I want to see over the next 9 days: gift baskets. Find out what kind of favorite candies Roger Goodell has at the NFL offices. Make just attention, Roger Goodell, from your friend Jaylen Carter, and hopefully he doesn't get suspended and we can see him out there against the Kansas City Chiefs. Gentlemen, the bottom. Oh, go ahead.
I'm telling you right now, man. If they suspend Jaylen Carter and they don't suspend Dak, I'm going to be really, really pissed off next week. I'm trying to tell you.
Tune in 9 days.
Yes.
I have a feeling you're going to be really pissed
off. For the volcanic version of Seth Joyner.
They ain't going to have to wait till 9 days, okay?
That's right, of course.
They'll hear it on WIP. They'll hear it on my podcast. They'll hear it on my TV show, okay? Now, if you want to find both of them, that's fine. But you can't look at one guy spit at somebody and another guy get close enough to spit on somebody and turn around and say that guy needs to be suspended and that guy doesn't.
I hope you're right. I'll be rooting for you to be right. But if not, in 9 days in particular, it's going to be right here on the Verizon pregame show. An absolute blast. Our thanks to Bailey Livesey. Our thanks to our great crew here. For Derek Gunn, for Seth Joyner, I'm Mark Farzetta. Thanks for joining us for our first post-game show, our Verizon post-game show of the 2025 NFL season that ends with the Eagles winning 24-20 over the Dallas Cowboys. The Eagles on the road to repeat, although they won't acknowledge it, we can right now. 1-0 to start out the new season.
Can't win them all unless you win the first one.
That's very true. We'll be back with you guys in 9 days to break down Eagles-Chiefs.
I'll miss you guys.